Most men think they understand women until the moment everything changes. The peace turns into conflict, the affection turns into tests, and the man who thought he was strong suddenly realizes he's standing on trial. This video will reveal the hidden psychology every man must face, because one wrong response can cost you her respect forever. Most men believe that once a relationship has moved past the initial excitement and has settled into stability, everything is finally safe. They think the love is secure, the bond is strong, and the struggles are over. But then, almost out of nowhere, something shifts. The woman who was once affectionate, gentle, and supportive suddenly begins to act in ways that confuse and frustrate him. The calm turns into conflict. The man is left wondering, what happened? Where did the peace go? Why is she acting so differently? Here's the harsh truth. Every woman does this. It's not about one particular woman, her mood, or her personality. It's a universal pattern rooted deep within female psychology. The only difference is timing. Sometimes it begins after a few months, sometimes after years, but inevitably it arrives. The moment when she starts testing her man. At the beginning of a relationship, the man is mysterious. He has his own life, his own goals, his independence, and his boundaries. That sense of strength and individuality is what initially draws her in. But as time passes, something changes. The man becomes predictable, overly available, and too invested in the relationship. He begins sacrificing his identity in the name of love. And this is when her subconscious starts to whisper, "Is he really as strong as I thought? Or did I make a mistake?" From that moment, the tests begin. What are these tests? They are subtle but powerful behaviors that often happen without her even realizing it. She doesn't plan them. They're instinctive. These tests are ways her subconscious mind evaluates whether her man is still worthy of respect, attraction, and trust. Is he strong enough to stand firm, or will he bend under pressure? Is he the leader she thought he was, or has he become just another follower? In her world, there are only two categories of men: strong, weak. There is no middle ground. Either you are a leader, confident, independent, and grounded, or you are a follower who loses himself just to please her. The strong man sets boundaries. He knows when to say yes and when to say no. He maintains his life outside of the relationship, his hobbies, his mission, his purpose. He doesn't need her validation to feel whole. This consistency makes her feel secure and attracted to him. The weak man does the opposite. He constantly bends, gives up his own needs, and places her happiness above everything else, even at the cost of his self-respect. He thinks that sacrifice equals love. He believes that saying yes to everything and never standing his ground will win her loyalty. But in her subconscious, it translates as weakness. This is where many men destroy themselves. They lose their passions, their identity, and their independence, all while believing they are being good partners. But slowly, the woman's respect for them fades. What was once attraction turns into silent disappointment. The truth is that real attraction has nothing to do with dependency. A woman doesn't respect or desire a man because he needs her. She is drawn to the man who is whole with or without her. Strength, independence, and self-respect are what fuel attraction. When a man shows weakness, the female subconscious reacts instinctively. She begins to push harder, to provoke, to withdraw, to create emotional turbulence. Not because she's cruel, but because evolution has wired her to constantly test the strength of her partner. Once she categorizes you as weak, the label sticks. Changing it later is almost impossible. That's why, from the very beginning, you must guard your frame, your dignity, and your identity. If you lose those, you lose everything, not just her attraction, but her respect as well. This is why men must understand. These tests are not evil. They are not random drama. They are part of the natural psychology of relationships. The question isn't whether she will test you. The question is whether you'll pass or fail. When these tests begin, most men fail them without even realizing it. Instead of standing firm, they panic. Instead of showing strength, they overcompensate with weakness. They start apologizing too quickly, over-explaining themselves, or showering her with gifts just to make the conflict disappear. In their minds, they believe, if I make her happy again, everything will go back to normal. But this is exactly the trap. Why? Because every time you surrender to her emotional storm, her subconscious records it as weakness. You teach her, without words, that you are willing to sacrifice your self-respect just to keep her calm. And once she sees this pattern, the cycle begins. Here's how the cycle usually looks. 1. She feels doubt. 2. She tests you through conflict, withdrawal, or emotional pressure. 3. You panic and give in, trying to fix everything instantly. 4. She loses a little more respect for you. 5. For a while, she softens again. 6. Then the next test arrives, stronger than the last. Over time, this cycle destroys men from the inside. They become anxious, insecure, and constantly on edge. They stop living their lives authentically and instead live in fear of losing her. But here's the paradox. The more you fear losing her, the faster you actually lose her. A woman is not attracted to a man who is desperate to keep her. She is attracted to a man who has the courage to let her go if the relationship requires him to compromise his dignity. That inner strength, the ability to walk away, is what makes her cling tighter. It may sound backwards, but this is how human attraction works. Think of it like this. When a man shows that his entire world depends on her approval, he becomes predictable, controllable, and replaceable. But when he stands firm, when he is not afraid of her moods, her drama, or even the possibility of losing her, she feels something far deeper than affection. She feels respect. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Most men, sadly, never learn this. They confuse love. Some men, when faced with constant conflict, think the solution lies in endless conversations, therapy sessions, or excessive communication. They sit for hours, trying to justify themselves, over-explaining every detail, begging her to understand their side. But instead of rebuilding respect, this often makes things worse. Why? Because in her subconscious, the more you explain, the weaker you appear. You are proving that her emotions control you, that her approval is your lifeline, and a man who depends on approval will never be respected. At this point, the relationship enters a downward spiral. She continues testing, he continues failing. Her respect shrinks, his anxiety grows. Eventually, he is no longer the man she once admired. He has become dependent, nervous, and broken. And when that happens, one of two things usually follows. Either she leaves or she stays physically, but disconnects emotionally, secretly longing for a stronger man. But here's the key truth. The solution is not manipulation, tricks, or outsmarting her tests. The solution is inner strength, real strength. The kind that doesn't need to act tough, doesn't need to fake indifference, but simply exists as part of who you are. What does this strength look like? It looks like a man who sets clear boundaries and enforces them without anger or fear. It looks like a man who lives a full life outside of his relationship, his passions, his goals, his friendships. It looks like a man who feels love deeply but does not lose himself in it. It looks like a man who can face a woman's storm of emotions with calmness instead of panic. This doesn't mean being cold, cruel, or emotionless. That's another mistake men make. They confuse strength with numbness. Real strength means feeling emotions fully, but not letting them control your actions. It means being able to listen to her frustration without becoming defensive, to handle her withdrawal without chasing, and to face the possibility of loss without fear. When a man reaches this place, something amazing happens. Her tests lose power. She still may try them because it's instinct, but his consistency never wavers. She sees that no matter how much pressure she applies, he remains grounded. And paradoxically, this makes her trust him more, respect him more, and even desire him more. Because here's the paradox of attraction. When you don't need her, she wants you more. When you're strong enough to walk away, she clings tighter. When you stand firm, she relaxes and feels safe. Every man, at some point, will face these subconscious tests. They are not avoidable. They are part of the dynamic between men and women. The real question is, will you recognize them and respond with strength, or fail them and be labeled weak forever in her subconscious? And understand this, once she places you in the weak category, it is almost impossible to change her perception. That is why you must guard your frame, your dignity, and your self-respect from the very beginning. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't sacrifice your identity in the name of love. True love is not about losing yourself for someone else. It is about bringing your whole, complete self into the relationship. When you are strong, independent, and centered, you don't just keep her respect, you keep her attraction. And that is what creates a relationship that can last. So the choice is yours. You can either live in fear, bending and breaking under every test until she sees you as weak, or you can embrace strength, live fully as a man, and let your presence speak louder than words. Because in the end, the only man who passes every test is the man who doesn't need to be tested at all.